the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score, raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Yo, what's going on, Canes fans, all our listeners and viewers tuned in. You are in for another episode of the CanesWear Daily Podcast. I am your host, Brad Tejeda. As y'all Cane fans know, we got a big game tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Hard Rock Stadium, which I will be at. Make sure you pack the rock. We got a big game against Virginia Tech. First game of the ACC. As y'all know, this is the start of a new season for our Miami Hurricanes, even though we're undefeated and we're on a roll. Coaches say it, players say it. It's a brand new season when it starts with the ACC. And there's no better guy to talk to about Virginia Tech than our guy, Tim Thomas, who's the editor and founder of Tech Lunch Pail, 2018 Virginia Tech graduate. But before we get started into that, I need y'all to make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for me. We do this almost every single day on the CanesWear Daily Podcast. And tomorrow I will be live at the CanesWear store in Davie, so make sure you check us out. I'll be there around 1 o'clock. We'll be getting some fan interaction with our guy Brett and others. And if you need any of your new hottest gear, like the Cam Ward jersey I'm wearing today, make sure you go and check it out at CanesWear. They got a brand new off-the-shelf CanesWear jerseys that should be there arriving tomorrow, just in time for our game. So make sure you check it out. But like I just said, man, we got a big-time rivalry game against Virginia Tech, the Hokies. If I'm not mistaken, Miami leads the series 25-15 with a 3-game winning streak. And there's no other better guy to talk to right now than our guy, Tim Thomas, like I said before, editor, founder of the Tech Lunch Pail, 2018 Virginia Tech graduate. Tim, let's bring our guy Tim on. Tim, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Brad? Great to be on here. I tell you, here in the beautiful Roanoke Airport before heading down to South Florida this evening. So,
absolutely, man. As you know, there's a little bit of a tropical storm around Florida currently, moving up toward the west or east, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully you have a safe flight going into South Florida down here. Hopefully I get to run into you tomorrow night. But we got some bigger and better things to talk about right now. We got a big time rivalry. First game of ACC play for our Miami Hurricanes and Virginia Tech. 2-2 Virginia Tech against 4-0 Miami. There's a little bit of bad blood, a little bit of history behind the scenes, whether it's, Marcus Vick and the Nike combo jerseys from back in the day that I remember, or, the family rivalry that we have today starting tomorrow and cousins of quarterbacks of Cam Ward and Kyron Drones, who we'll talk about a little bit. But right off the bat, Tim, let's talk a little bit about your Virginia Tech Hokies, right? This is a team that's 2-2, like I mentioned before. They're coming off a loss to Rutgers, who, in my opinion, is a very physical team when it comes to the trenches. You talk about a guy in Coach Schiano, he really instills that same philosophy that Coach Cristobal has. Where do you feel like Virginia Tech is at coming into this football game from a physical standpoint?
Yeah, Brad. Well, I think about it. I think there's some work to be done, especially in the offensive line. This offensive line has not been good. They've been fine in run block, but pass blocking has not been pretty. And the fact that you might have a Ruben Bain return tomorrow night, in addition to Tyler Barron and everyone else, which, by the way, you got to mention on the family front, Tyler Barron's the younger brother of former great Virginia Tech defensive tackle Woody Barron. So I tell you this, I know Woody probably will be rooting for his brother a little bit, as you would hope, but I don't know. He might be a little nervous for Thanksgiving, and rooting for Tech to maybe Tyler have a few sacks and his Hokies to take care of business tomorrow night. But yeah, this is a team that's got to be better in the trenches. The defensive line, I think, has been better. A lot of new faces at defensive tackle. A lot of had to really portal that spot to get it up to where it needed to be after losing a lot of talent from last year. And you look at Aeneas Peebles coming in from Duke. Kelvin Gilliam looks really good coming in from Oklahoma. He's been a pleasant surprise through the first few weeks. But this is a team that's got to be better, though. This is a team that's, I think was better last week, slowing down the Kyle Monungai, really good running back for Rutgers. But especially in the offensive line, it has to be better. And unfortunately for Tech, one of the biggest things that's holding back is the fact that especially on the offensive side, on the offensive line, they just have not improved. And when you're not winning in the trenches at the end of the day, I mean, you can have the more talented team, but if you're not winning the trenches, it doesn't really matter. Even in this modern football, the spread, everything else, we talk, people say, why does it matter? You're spreading it out, everything, but you don't win in the trenches. You're not giving your quarterback clean pockets. That was the difference last game. Rutgers had a lot more clean pockets than Tech did. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden, a guy who wasn't good at Minnesota as a passer can make effective plays and chop up Tech and lead Rutgers to victory. So,
Yeah, you mentioned the trenches, how important that is for Virginia Tech, and you mentioned Tyler Barron and a possible Ruben Bain that may possibly come back. This is a team with a Ruben Bain that's only had 2 snaps this year, leads the country in sacks. To your point, and going to Virginia Tech side, this is a team that's 110th in sacks allowed, and I believe they've been sacked 8 times, if I'm not mistaken already. So you got to make sure that you protect a quarterback like Kyron Drones, who we'll get to talk to in a minute. But, this was a team at Virginia Tech that leading up to the season, they were probably picked by many to be the contender for the ACC this year, just because they had about 20 out of 22 returning starters this year. And we'll talk about some of the difference makers that Miami's going to have to look forward to tomorrow night. But the first one I want to talk about is Kyron Drones, right? Cam Ward's cousin. This
yep.
is a quarterback that trains with Cam Ward in the offseason with Shador Sanders. This is a quarterback that last year had a phenomenal year in Virginia Tech's offense. If I'm not mistaken, he only had 3 interceptions last year, and he already has 3 interceptions this year, which goes to show you, just the amount of consistency and completion percentage and the right decision making that Kyron Drones made his first year at Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken. I want to ask you this: watching Miami in person go against a team like South Florida, who had, in my opinion, a little bit more of a better offensive line when it comes to protecting the pocket compared to Virginia Tech, but their quarterback and Byron Brown, as far as from a running capability, is very similar to Kyron Drones, but there was a lot of opportunities left on the football field where if Byron Brown would have a little bit more consistent as far as throwing and being a little bit more accurate, I think they could have been more damage done. With a guy like Kyron Drones, who I think is more accurate, what are you looking for from Kyron in particular to maybe, kickstart his football season? Because as I mentioned before, he's kind of off to a slow start.
Yeah, Brad. Well, I think about it this way. It just feels like Kyron Drones a little uncomfortable right now in the offense in the pocket. They got to do more. They got to. One of the things is I think David Hale of ESPN had a great stat about this. Drones has not been as effective outside the pocket this year, and I think part of it is when he is outside the pocket throwing the football, it's not designed. It's more
Mhm.
scrambling. It's more off rhythm. He just hasn't been getting clean pocket. I think PFF's numbers show he's been under duress about 32, 33% of the time this season. That's only slightly better than his 35 last year. I also don't like they need to run some more RPOs, some more play action. I think Tyler Bowen has not done a great job of designing some easier throws in because, to be honest, Drones has not been reading, progressing through his reads well so far this year. That's been part of the issue. And his accuracy just hasn't made the jump that you would hope it would be. And I think you combine everything together, and it's just Drones is just uncomfortable. You have an offensive line that's just not pass blocking well. You have a approach that doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of play calls. It seems like, or things, they talk a lot about in the offseason about we want to put plays in place that fit Kyron's eye. And I don't know if they're really, at least so far, it doesn't seem like they're doing that. So this is an offense that's got a lot of things to work on. And if you're Tech, they also got to do a better job establishing the run because they can run the football. Facial Tuden is one of the best running backs probably in college football. And he's been phenomenal. 3 straight games of 100 plus yards. He's averaging 5.8 per carry. He's already got, I think, 7 or 8 rushing touchdowns already this year, if I'm remembering off the top of my head correctly. So get him the ball early. And that's part of it is they've gone a lot more shotgun and a lot more, traditional passing attack. And part of that they're playing behind too. Like when you're playing behind, you can't get into some of the things that I think really play to Kyron Jones' strengths. And so the issue for Kyron, I think, is multifold. Some of the things, it's got to be him. He's got to be more accurate. He's got to be better at progressing through his reads. But the offense has got to be better built around him in terms of play calls and fit his skill set because he's never going to be this great passer. He's got a lot of arm talent, but he's not always going to be. And they got to do a better job of getting him comfortable and in rhythm in these games because you could see it the body language. It's just he just doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. And given the amount of pressure he's faced in the pocket, I can't necessarily say I blame him.
You made a lot of good points, and you brought up another great player that I was going to mention besides Kyron Drones, and that's Bashal Tootin, who has 8 total touchdowns, leads the ACC in touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, and he's second ACC in rushing yards with 391. Besides Drones and Tootin, who's another guy on the offense side of the football that you think Miami Hurricanes need to circle for tomorrow night? And then also give me a position group or a player in particular that you're looking to really step up for Virginia Tech on the offense side of the ball.
Well, you look at the receivers. There's so much talent in that room, and they just haven't. Part of there's probably 5 or 6 different reasons why you could say why they haven't been able to be as productive. Part of it's like I said, Aaron Jones not having enough time in the pocket. Part of it's bad decisions. Part of it's play calls that aren't just fitting the quarterback's eye. I think a guy like Jalen Lake, dynamic punt returner, he's leading the team in receptions. He's a dangerous slot receiver. I think he could pull it. I mean, he poses a lot of questions. Doesn't matter who you're playing. Working out of the slot, speed, the quickness he brings. And then also Daquan Feldman. They haven't been able to hit those home runs yet. They're going to need to tomorrow night. Drones has been a little off, but Feldman's been getting behind defenses. He had a couple where he got behind the defense and Drones just missed him slightly. So Daquan Feldman's a guy. He's 6'3". You look him on paper, and it's like, okay, this is a 50-50 ball guy. This is a speedster at 6'3". He's not just a possession guy. He's got a basketball background, but he is a speedster, and I think he's a guy to watch tomorrow night. And he's a guy they need to make some big plays. Same thing, Allen James, same thing, all these guys. But yeah, I think the offensive lines and units just got to step up. This is a unit that has not been good, but they got to find something tomorrow night if Tech's going to have a chance. If they don't, if Kyron Jones is under duress all night, this could get ugly. And I mean ugly.
Yeah, speaking of getting ugly, one guy that seems to make the defense get real ugly very quickly is our guy number 1, Cam Ward at quarterback. This is a guy that, for some reason, every game that Miami is lined up against, the defensive scheme has been to stop the run. It has been, hey, Cam Ward, we're going to see what you and these wide receivers got and see if you're really that talented. And within 2 quarters, they're already down 20-plus points, and by that time, it's too late. They get into the second half, they try to stop the pass, and then we start creating run opportunities, and that's the ball game, right? Going into this football game, you guys do have a dynamic pass rusher who leads the nation with 6 sacks, and Antoine Powell Ryland Jr., who transferred from Florida this past year, has 10 solo tackles, 2 forced fumbles, really dynamic player off the edge. Our offensive line is one of the best in the country, as you know, and it's one of our strong points with Maribal and Cristobal at the helm. We may or may not have our starting left tackle back in Jalen Rivers. Either way, I feel very confident in our offensive line. What are some of the question marks or some of the concerns you have looking at this offensive group from Miami for Virginia Tech's defense before we kind of break that side of the football down?
Yeah, well, I think it's just Miami's got it all, talent-wise. I mean, that's what I picked Miami preseason to win the ACC on my ACC ballot, which is looking pretty good right now. I'm glad I did not pick Florida State like so many people did. But yeah, you look at just the amount of talent this team has. Cam Ward was my preseason All ACC quarterback. Damian Martinez was on my preseason All ACC ballot. Xavier Restrepo was on my preseason All ACC ballot. Jacoby George was almost on. I think Jalen, a couple Miami offensive linemen were. I know that unit maybe hasn't played up to its potential so far through the first few games, but that is something. If Rivers isn't play, I think that's the spot you got to go after whoever's in there. That's the spot. Put APR on him. See if APR can go to work because look, Cam Ward's been able to get. He's really managed the pocket from highlights I've seen, and he's done a great job even when he's under duress of moving effectively in the pocket. That's where you got to put an elite sack rusher, pass rusher, and sackman like APR, Antoine Powell, Ryland after. And then look, I think APR understands that you don't want to let Miami beat you. He was at Florida for a couple years under Napier and all that. Though, I wonder how much Florida's missing him right now. I'll tell you right now, they could probably use it. But there's just so much talent. Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, that backfield with Martinez, with Mark Fletcher, this Jordan Lyle kid, I see he's averaging 8 yards per carry. You look at, like I said, those receivers. You look at Restrepo, you look at George, you bring in Sam Brown from Houston. Isaiah Horton, where did he come from? I mean, there's just so many guys you have to manage, and this is a case where I think Miami's just got such a depth of options. Tech, I think, has a great job of it as well with their receiving core and just running backs and all that. But it's just hard to manage. And Cam Ward is playing at a Heisman level right now. And so when you have all those weapons and a quarterback that's playing at a Heisman level like Cam Ward is, I mean, good luck. I mean, it's just one of those things where the reality is if you hold them under 30, shake everybody's hands on the defensive side of the ball. You've done a great job because I mean, reality is, and there are probably people who lose their mind about the DC if they hold them to say 31 points. But
Yeah.
you hold them to 31, there aren't going to be a lot of teams um, that are going to hold them to 31 points. So this is as tough as of a test as it's going to get all year in terms of an offense Tech's going to face. And this offense, the depth of talent is why they're not in like top tier national title contenders. But I'll say it, they're a second tier national title contender right now. They are absolutely forget the ACC. They're the favorite, no doubt. But I think this team has what it takes to potentially contend for a national title.
Yeah, you talked about, trying to hold Miami and Cam Ward at 31 points. That is a huge ask because this is a team through 4 games that's averaging, I think, 50 points a game and is on pace to break many records of the whole team, whether it's Cam Ward, Xavier Strepo, or others, right? This is a guy in Cam Ward that's second in the nation in passing. We're number 10 in total defense, number 6 in rushing defense. And, one of the questions I want to ask you is one of Virginia Tech's strong suits is, running the football, which is also the Miami Hurricanes' strong suit as far as a defensive standpoint. And then when you look at the opposite side of the football, Virginia Tech relies more on stopping the pass. And it seems like Miami has no issue starting out throwing the football very early. So if Miami was to able to get to a very early lead, where do you see the Virginia Tech defense maybe adjusting? Or a better question for you would be, do you think Virginia Tech's strategy going into this football game will be similar to every other opponent Miami is facing, stacking the box? Or do you think they're going to play to their strengths like they have been and kind of, playing more to stopping the pass?
Yeah, I think Brad, you got to. I'm Tech. I'm Chris Mark, defensive coordinator. I'm Brett Parr, head coach. Great defensive background, as we all know. Um, I'm rushing 4. I'm dropping back. They're going to run a lot of nickel, I think. Really like the young cornerback who's the number 3 corner, and Dante Lovett. Young sophomore corner, been very good this season. Showed a lot of promise last year. I think you're going to see a lot of him in this game, and you'll see a lot of Dorian Strong working out the slot, who, of course, all ACC, going to be a day 1 or 2 NFL draft pick. Mansour Delane going to be a day 1 or 2 NFL draft pick. He played terrible against Vanderbilt Delane, but past 3 games, 13 targets, 2 catches allowed. So it's going to be I'll tell you right now, on the outside with Streppo and George and Brown against Strong and Delane and Lovett is going to be a fantastic battle. I mean, you're going to have a lot of NFL scouts who are going to be watching what's going on over there and seeing who wins those battles. And someone could make some money in this game. Someone could push their way up some draft boards. So, I think you have to kind of, and then you got to trust the guys to fill gaps, fill lanes, and they really like Caleb Woodson in terms of linebackers. The linebacker play's got to be good. That's been a weaker spot of this team. Sam Brumfield is going to get the most valuable he is. He's not the highest ceiling guy, but he's a high floor player. He's a high IQ player. And look, you brought him in to make sure your run defense was sharp. You're going to need that run defense to be sharp because you're not going to be able to just load up the box. You're going to have to fill gaps. You cannot have run fit issues. That plagued Tech last year. That's not been an issue this year because they actually have a true Mike linebacker, unlike last year where they tried some outside linebackers there and it just was a complete mess. So, that's going to be the challenge is how heavy do sit back and try to, that's the thing. Just pick your poison. Do you want Cam Ward to try to be the one to beat you, or do you want to make Damian Martinez? I might lean towards Martinez, and I don't like either of those. If you're a Tech fan, you're not liking either of those options, but that's what you got to do. And you know what? You got to find a way to force a turnover too. That's very much a difficult thing against Cam Ward and this Miami offense, but if you're Tech going in this game, you got to find a way to force a turnover too. This is the first time all year that Tech has been the less talented team going into it. They've been the more talented team, I would say, in all 4 games. They just found ways to throw away a couple of them. So, first time you're a less talented team, you got to play like an underdog. And that also means offensively, they got to keep their defense off the field. they gotta have some nice extended drives in this game, even if you're not scoring. You gotta get that defense rested up. You gotta have some extended drives in this game because if not, it's gonna kill you.
You made a lot of good points, man. If there was anybody I could talk to about Virginia Tech football, I'm glad I picked the right guy, man. Before we let you out of here and get your score prediction, you talked about the turnover battle, and this again, I'm going to preach about it again. This is a team in Miami that, without Ruben Bain, is tied for first in the nation in sacks, and they're also tied for first in the nation in interceptions. So it's a team that clearly loves getting the ball on the defensive side of the football. Before we get to your game prediction, man, who is the MVP for Virginia Tech for them to get the win tomorrow night in Hard Rock Stadium? Who is that MVP?
Well, I think it's got to be Bashal too. He has been so good. It's your biggest stars. I think Bashal and then Antoine Powell. Look, these are the two biggest stars in this team. There's clearly an opportunity, I think, for Powell. Even Jalen Rivers is playing. He's a guy who hasn't played all season yet.
Mm-hmm.
Still probably a little banged up. Go after him. And if you're Bashal too, then look, he's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the ACC. This is a guy who can have a big night. This is a guy who, if Kyler Bowen can use him in a lot of different ways, they'll throw a lot of different ways. They'll put him outside. They'll use him off motion. They'll set him up in the backfield. They'll use him in a lot of different ways. Those two guys, look, this is a game where you need your stars to shine brightest. National television, rivalry, top 10 matchup. This is where you need your stars to shine brightest. And if Texas will win this football game, I think you're going to have a big night for Bashal Jr. You're going to have a big night for Antoine Powell. I think you're also going to have Kyron Jones look like the quarterback who many thought might be the preseason ACC Player of the Year over Cam Ward, over my pick, O'Brien Hampton out of North Carolina. This is a night where you're going to need also Kyron Jones to deliver a big-time performance, and I think he absolutely could. It would not shock me if he puts on a show.
Hey, man, like I mentioned before, Kyron Drones, who's cousins of Cam Ward, their quarterback coach, will also be in attendance. This is a game that they circled from the beginning. They do FaceTime conference calls every single week, and this is a week that they didn't do that. They didn't have any speaking within the two, so I'm interested to see how the matchup ends. Hey, man, and this is a Miami team that I like being on the opposite side of things, man. We're not used to this, right? We usually cover the spread, and not only that, this is a team that has not showed any of their tools in their toolbox. A guy in Cam Ward hasn't really even let it loose as great as we've seen from him. I think there's still a lot more sailing to prove from him. And we haven't even opened up the playbook on the rushing or the passing side of the football. So I'm interested to see if this being the first ACC game of the year, if we start to open that up. But at the end of the day, man, we're going to see what happens tomorrow night in Hard Rock Stadium. So I need to make sure all the fans pack the rock. And before we let you out of here, Tim, what is your score prediction for tomorrow night's game?
Well, I'll tell you this. I wouldn't mind if it was a little quieter atmosphere, but look, I know Miami, Miami gets plenty of flack for the middle games where it's half empty Hard Rock, but when it's a big game, that place is dangerous playing. That place is dangerous. At the end, I just think there's too much firepower for Miami. Like I said, I think this is a national title contending team. I think for Virginia Tech right now, there are still things they got to figure out about themselves, about what they can be this year. I got 42-24 Miami. I don't like saying that at all, but I think Vegas's line is pretty darn accurate in this case as well. I think, like I said, you have a top 10 Miami team firing on all cylinders right now. Texas is the best team they faced all year, but like I said, Miami's firing on all cylinders. I think this is a chance to show, hey, we're not just beating bad football teams like Florida. We're not just being a good group of five, but we're beating good football teams. And we're a legitimate top 10 national title contending team. I think Miami takes care of business tomorrow night, as much as I don't like saying that. As much as the alum in me does not like saying that, I think Miami continues to establish why they're the front runner to win the ACC. But for Virginia Tech, look, everything's still to play for. You have to go perfect to get to the ACC championship. But I think this one, they're going to come up short in Hard Rock tomorrow night.
Hey, you mentioned right from the jump about the atmosphere of Miami and the Hard Rock Stadium. We're starting to build that back again. And the last time the atmosphere was at its climax, the last time the Miami football team felt like it was at its climax, we had an incredible back-to-back game in Hard Rock Stadium with Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. And the incredible atmosphere, I was there for those two games. It was like the old OB, man. And I hope and I expect for us to create that atmosphere tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, prime time. All the other college football fans will be watching this, and I expect a huge show from Cam Ward and a huge attendance from this crowd. But Tim, before we let you go, man, please let the viewers and listeners where they can find your amazing work, man, because you do a great job.
I appreciate it, Brad. Yeah, techlunchbell.com. Look, if you're a fan of tech listening to this, or if you're a Miami fan, you want to stay up with tech, just keep an eye on your rival. The best way to do it, we got insider subscriptions, $7 a month, $70 a year. Check it out. You can follow me on Twitter, Tim Thomas TLP, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. Twitter, you can follow us Tech Lunch Bell on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, whatever you want, we're there. So check us out.
Awesome work, Tim. I appreciate you again for taking some time out of your busy schedule. Like you mentioned at the beginning, man, you're on a layover on your flight on your way to South Florida. I gave you a couple of restaurant opportunities to go check out, man. I hope you go check them out and have a great flight. And I hope to see you tomorrow, man. Go Canes.
Brad, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's about to be rolling out here in about 15 minutes for leg one of this two-part flight here. I'm rolling out from Roanoke to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Miami. So I can't wait to be down there. And I'll just try to at least. I think I might be able to take you up on one of those lunch options. I'll tell you right now. Both sounded good, so I think I can take you up on one of them. So
awesome, man. Let me know. Let me know how you like it, man. I hope you have a great flight. Appreciate you as always.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, there you have it, Cane fans. We had our guy Tim Thomas from Virginia Tech Lunch Pail. Make sure you give him a follow. And before we head out, again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be live tomorrow at CanesWear Store in Davie around 1 o'clock. So make sure you're tuned in. We're out.